get more reaction to this story. Mmusi Maimane, leader of One South Africa movement, joins me now. Mr. Maimane, thank you very much for your time this evening. Without picking sides, or picking sides if that's what you'd like to do, what's your reaction to this face-off, if we can call it that?
Good evening, and good evening to fellow South Africans. I think it speaks to the efficacy of the state and what the function of portfolio committees are, what oversight looks like, and the fact that these board members are well within their right to expose the truth of the entity. You see, the greatest challenge that has happened in the recent years is that the ANC had felt it comfortable to select particular individuals, deploy them to boards, and once they've deployed them to boards, they expect those people to acquiesce to what the ANC wants. They expect those board members to not do their duties, and we've seen it in too many state-owned enterprises. I want to applaud this particular board member for the courageous actions that she's done. I want to inspire all the other board members, whether they're in the liquor board or the gambling board or any other board, state-owned entity, need to be able to pronounce on illegalities that take place when government takes action, and that she was correct in saying the political mismanagement and the governance failures that the ANC has brought upon Eskom need to be exposed. It's a fact of truth. It cannot be something that now suddenly we must now chastise an individual for stating what is plainly known to all South Africans. I'm deeply disappointed at the role of Parliament. We've had a toothless Parliament for many years. And I was very excited about the role that Honorable Shengwa was playing. And I'm disappointed at his actions now, that he has to now take on a member of a board member who is speaking an absolute truth that South Africans experience. If there was no mismanagement, none of us would be experiencing a 14-year-old blackout situation. And therefore, I think that we need to recapacitate the role of board members. We need to strengthen it. We need to support it. And we need to give protection to these individuals when they do their job of governance in state-owned enterprises. To muzzle them will be to kill oversight.
The criticism has not been received well. Do you think that Chairperson Hlengwa made a mistake by asking board member Mavuso to leave the meeting?
Completely. You cannot have a board, certainly, in that instance, to say when board members speak out and have a view that is contrary to yours, you want to blame it on cameras and then say to them that they must pull out of the meeting. Because if you continue that culture, you are creating conditions of intimidation upon which board members are not capable to speak. If it wasn't for some of the courageous board members, you wouldn't have had action that was taking place in the state broadcaster, which is the SABC. You wouldn't have had the exposés that have taken place at other state-owned enterprises where those are SAA. We must get back into a culture of good governance and board members being able to speak. You can't run the country by commissions, so allow people to make mistakes, do things that are wrong, and then board members have to feel the freedom to go speak at Zondo commissions or arms deal commissions, etc. We must get back to strengthening governance, following our own rules, and making sure that when board members are appointed, they are appointed properly, fairly, that due process follows, but then they are given the full mandate and the legal powers that they have. So I think, to me, it is completely uncalled for that Parliament would feel that at its own behest, it can ask board members to leave. I think it's a failure of accountability and will exacerbate a culture that we do not want to see in our country.
Do you think her comments showed a refusal to account for Eskom's issues, as claimed by Chairperson Hlengwa?
I think that what her comments indicate is that the failure of Eskom, as she states correctly, that this is a 14-year-old problem. We have had one party in government, and the refusal to account by that party, as we saw some headlines that they are asking Eskom to behave better, whilst there was some mismanagement of decisions, whether it was that in fact we needed to build better capacity, whether it was questions of whether Midupi and Kusile should have been done timelessly, these were all government decisions. We've had minister after minister. We've had, back then, Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa run an interministerial committee to look into Eskom. We have had then issues of state capture that have taken place. And as the president says correctly when he arrives at the Zondo Commission, the ANC is accused number one as it comes to Eskom. And so I think her comments will not be too dissimilar to what Judge Zondo will produce in his Zondo Commission. So to suddenly for the ANC to take umbrage about that or to want to ask it to recuse, and that for the Portfolio Committee to not stand on the side of those who want to uphold the integrity of their role and ensuring that the government accounts, I think to me is misdirection. So I will urge that ultimately Honorable Hlengwa needs to withdraw those comments. We need to capacitate board members, and the ANC must account for the mess of electricity. It's been 14 years, and the citizens of this country have suffered under load shedding, and worse, GDP has shrunk by at least 1% thanks to load shedding, meaning that our unemployment crisis has been exacerbated to levels where too many citizens are hungry and cannot find work.
Andre de Ruyter has faced his fair share of criticism, and he's saying he's not performing in turning Eskom around. What do you think this support from Busisiwe Mavuso, and essentially her saying that she refuses to let him be the scapegoat or the fall guy for the ANC's failures, says about ultimately his capabilities and his leadership of Eskom at the moment?
Yeah, I've had multiple engagements with the executive at Eskom, certainly dealing with aspects of corruption in other matters, such as the Sentia matter, etc. I found them to be genuinely committed to cleaning out an entity that has been looted for years. I think furthermore, what we need to do is ask ourselves the very basic questions. Where are the breakdown areas of Eskom? Where are the maintenance plans on the table? And I would have urged that perhaps portfolio committees need to focus on being able to not only technically analyze the reports that are coming through, but ensuring that the leadership is assessed fairly and accurately. If you inherit an entity that was already facing great difficulty, that already maintenance plans were poor, the assessment against Andre de Ruyter must be on whether or not he has been able to improve those conditions. And ultimately, this is not about the race of an individual. This is about whether the leadership they're providing in the entity is such that we can see an improvement in various aspects. And so to be fair, I think that the other policy decisions that have been poor that have taken place that actually hamper the work of Eskom is the IPP renewal program and the delay in being able to issue further licenses so that generation can be put elsewhere. You can't exempt the power problem in this country and excuse government failure, excuse government mismanagement, and then reduce it only to the number of individuals who are in the C-suite of Eskom. I really believe it's an unfair handling of the issue. I think the board is correct to stand with its own leadership. What we need to do is to ask ourselves as South Africa, what is our vision for energy? Are we going to incorporate more solar energy? Are we going to diversify energy given the crisis of climate that we face? And furthermore, once we've done that particular exercise, what capacity do we put to ensure that we never, A, have to deal with load shedding, B, ensure new players come into the energy sector, and ultimately ensure that it is to the benefit of economic growth. That takes government, that takes leadership at Eskom, and it also takes municipalities, ensuring that in their own articulation of energy, it is effectively managed.
Thank you so much for your insights this evening. That was Mmusi Maimane, leader of One South Africa Movement.